What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the South Dakota Dynasty. It was a fun year one, not the results we really wanted to see, but definitely was expected. A 1-11 record. We went 1-2 against the other teams from the Dakotas, making the jump 0-2 against the top 25. It was a lot of fun getting back to NCAA Football 14 and back making videos. I enjoyed this first season. It was a lot of fun to make. A lot of the support I got was really great to see as well. But now we look at our schedule for the year one. So we opened the season against North Dakota in one of the most exciting games that I've ever played, probably in this game, and it was a great game to open. We won in comeback fashion. The big game changer was Toby Coda's blocked field goal that really changed the momentum. But North Dakota ran the ball very well, over 300 yards. That was a threshold a lot of teams really broke on us. But it was a comeback fashion, 21 points in the second half, along with a touchdown with 13 seconds left to take the lead. Didn't settle for the field goal in overtime, went for the win. And Dion Gilbert had a great game, 2 touchdown catches. Deontay Knox with a game-winning touchdown. But we got down big, a pick six, and they ran the ball very well. Their fullback ran one time for 74 yards. And for us, J.R. Miller, 2 interceptions, not his best game of the season. Our running game really picked up in that second half, though. Then outside of that, we really got into some Power 5 games. Both of these were very ugly against Oregon State and Oklahoma on the road. Then we went back home, played a very close game against New Mexico. It was very back and forth. However, they finished the fourth quarter with 2 touchdowns, took the lead, and ended up winning. They ran 435 yards on us. J.R. Miller, not a great game from him. Just didn't really play super great, but had a pick six. That was a big turning point. Then we went back. Iowa State was probably our best performance against a Power 5 team, putting up 20 points. Our passing game, that's the game they really started to come alive. We'll see the stats for J.R. Miller. Yeah, 295 on 46 attempts. Really sort of gave up on the running game, but threw the ball very well. Then played at BYU. We were blown out. The Bowling Green game was closer than it really appears. They ended up scoring 28 points in that second half. It was close entering halftime. Then a pick six really changed the momentum of that game. Let's see how they ran. We actually did a decent job stopping the run in that game. 3 touchdowns for J.R. Miller. This was the game where we really ran the ball well. 100 yards each for Libby and Pagan, 46 added by Trenton Klemper. Then Kansas State wasn't close. Wyoming was a blowout. Texas State was a very close game. Just didn't do enough to win. But it was an exciting game as well. Only a few games that were really close, I would say, outside of the one that we obviously won. New Mexico, Bowling Green was close for a lot of it. And then Texas State. North Dakota State didn't play bad. South Dakota State, just not a great performance by us. Let's see how they ran for 325. And North Dakota State ran for 341. So yeah, stopping the run was our biggest struggle. I think we finished last in the country in that category. But so obviously our starting quarterback was J.R. Miller, threw for over 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Really on offense, our passing game was pretty good at times, but our run game was incredibly inconsistent. And one positive takeaway, we weren't really sacked that much as a team. Only 21 sacks given up, which isn't super bad compared to some of the other teams. But we turned the ball over way too much, 13 interceptions, and then a bunch of fumbles here. But yeah, J.R. Miller, he was a good quarterback for us. At times he looked very good. Other times he was inaccurate in turning the ball over. Running back Pierce Libby, he was probably our best running back. He's a little quicker than Jalen Page is, as we'll see here. He's just a little faster. Yeah, just a little faster. Jalen Page can do a little more out of the backfield in terms of catching the ball, is a little more elusive. Ethan Smith played more in the second half of the season, I would say, and he was very effective. 2 runs of over 20 yards, both those coming against South Dakota State. Trenton Klemper was another running back. He wasn't super effective, though. And then the receivers on the runs did a decent job. 36-yard run was the long for Dion Gilbert. At receiver, it was Deontay Knox and Dion Gilbert, both with 39 receptions. Deontay Knox had a few longer receptions. They really bump up that average. Both had 4 touchdowns. I really like them. They both played very well. Then Nate Went was good at times. His biggest struggle, of course, was 14 drops, which is more than these two combined. And he's going to have to get better at that. Tate Wagner was our tight end. He got more involved in like the last quarter of the season. Probably could have done a better job of getting him the football. Jalen Page caught a number of passes out of the backfield. And then Delvonte Bell, I've talked about this a bunch. He had that 54-yard catch. And then outside of that, all of his catches seemed to be on third down. A little underneath route that went for a first. Richie Campbell and a couple running backs here with a few catches. Didn't see a whole ton of different receivers though. But I would say, honestly, probably Deontay Knox was our best player on offense. To me, he was only a true freshman. Tied for the lead in receptions, led us in yards, 4 touchdowns, made big plays. He was pretty sure-handed, only 5 drops, which isn't too bad. The other option probably would be Pierce Libby, but he was inconsistent at times, so I probably wouldn't say him. But our offense as a whole was just very inconsistent. It's not super unexpected with the talent level on this roster. Not a whole lot of real difference makers, and hopefully that's something that we'll be able to change as we go along. Now, along the offensive line, we saw a number of guys sub in as people got fatigued, and earlier I said we didn't give up that many sacks, which is true, and you can see some of the guys. I'm not sure how accurate this really is. Jalen Page, I guess, gave up a sack, but Liam Hennessy and Brandon Groenhagen, he was probably our worst run blocker, honestly. When we were getting blown off the ball, he was the one I feel like I always noticed. Him and Tyler Wilson were the two. And then early in the season when we were starting Jack Sternberg, he's only 5'7", so he really struggled. And then Devin Martin definitely played better than he did. But now moving to the defensive side of the ball, Toby Cota led us in tackles. He's a senior, he was the captain of the defense, and he will be moving on. He was disruptive at times, 3 sacks. I feel like the linebackers were probably the biggest strength of our defense. Toby Cota, Sylvia Widenart, and Rakeem Hood all definitely flashed at different times. Hood with 46 tackles and only 34 for Sylvia. I expected a bigger year out of him. But a big problem with this team was we had pretty much no pass rush all year. Only a few sacks by a few different guys, and then Toby Cota and Pedro Martels with 3. In terms of the other defensive linemen, Nick Kreutzberg was underwhelming for me personally, and then Shado Hansen was invisible for the most part. He only had 12 tackles on the season. Pedro Martels was disruptive at times, and then Pedro Chiquetti was also disruptive. He didn't have a ton of tackles though. He had a couple of different moments. But the defensive line maybe was the biggest weakness. They didn't stop the run. They didn't get any sort of pass rush. It's not a good sign when your leading tacklers are a linebacker, safety, linebacker, corner, linebacker, corner, middle linebacker, and then finally a defensive end all the way down there. But in terms of tackle for loss, it was our linebackers who led us there. Rakeem Hood and Sylvia definitely started off the season very strong and played well. Rakeem Hood sort of vanished at different points along with really all of the players on this defense. In the secondary, in terms of corners, we were very undersized. Jeremiah Glover, though, he did a pretty good job tackling. Tackling was a big issue for this team, though, a ton of missed tackles, but 6 tackles for loss for your cornerback isn't bad. Mac DeGene was 5'8", Glover is 5'6", and then Xavier Warner is 5'7", so very undersized, not super athletic. Made it easy for teams when they weren't running the ball, maybe going play action to throw the ball down the field. Another big problem, we didn't force a ton of turnovers. Bukowski had 1, along with Warner having 2, and Trevon Simmons had that 1 against North Dakota to seal that first victory. Warner had the only pick 6 and defensive touchdown on the season. Not really a ton of pass breakups either. 1 of the 4 was by defensive linemen. Forced 3 fumbles, which isn't good enough, and only 1 of those was recovered. And then, like I said, 1 touchdown for Warner. Then moving to more of the special team side of the ball, Malachi Peterson was a senior, not the most talented guy. And he was pretty accurate from within like 45 yards, as his only misses were 40 to 49 and then 1 from 50 plus. No touchbacks on kickoffs. Kenny Mattson, not super impressive, not a whole lot to say about him. Mac DeGene was a difference maker though on kick return. Deontay Knox had a couple of nice ones, but DeJeanette, especially early in the season, was consistently taking kicks back 50 yards, if not longer, and that was a big part of our win against North Dakota. Richie Campbell, not a lot to say, only a long of 14 in terms of punt returns. As we move forward in the offseason, we see DeAndre Swift takes home the Heisman over Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields. He had nearly 2,000 yards from scrimmage and 22 touchdowns. Not a super close Heisman race. He received a good majority of the first place votes. But now we'll look at some of the bowl results. So we see UTEP actually went 7-5, so that's good for them. Notre Dame only went 7-6. North Dakota State ends up losing their bowl game to Bowling Green, who we faced earlier this year. Definitely surprising, so they end their first season in the FBS at 9-4. Obviously, the other two Dakota teams did not make it. Clemson makes their way back up to number 8, but played in the Russell Athletic Bowl, which is a little surprising for them. Let's see if there's any others. Virginia Tech loses to Alabama. I'd mentioned them earlier because they were 11-1 and still like number 20 in the country. They lose in the ACC Championship and then in the Chick-fil-A Bowl to Alabama. Now down to the BCS Bowls, and UCF goes 13-1, 10-0 in conference, and then beats Ohio State. So they continue to show they're one of the best group of 5 programs. Great performance. Looks like they ended up at number 4 in the country. LSU and Oklahoma, definitely an interesting matchup. Definitely have never seen that before. But Oklahoma actually wins this time by 10 points in a shootout, as we'll see the stats. 285 for Jalen Hurts in the air. Joe Burrow, looks like he actually got hurt, so Miles Brennan had to play him through 3 interceptions. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been hurt this year. He wasn't playing for them. Georgia beats Michigan. In the Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl is a victory for Florida State, who finishes 13-1. And then in the national championship, Arizona actually takes it home. Texas had been undefeated all year, and they lose their first game in the final game of the season. Looks like they tried to make a comeback, but it was a good performance from Arizona early on. Great end to this first half right there. Khalil Tate, 4 touchdown passes, 83 yards on the ground. And then Sam Ehlinger only completed 50% of his passes, and they ran the ball well. See the team stats. So 2 turnovers for Texas. A very evenly matched game. Ends up with a 10-point victory though for Arizona, and they are your season 1 national champion, and they will be the defending national champions entering next year. So a look at the final rankings. Arizona's number 1, Florida State number 2. They go 10-0 in conference. UCF gets up to number 4. Texas drops. Utah at number 9. A lot of Pac-12 schools were up in the top 10 this year. As you can see, Arizona, Utah, Oregon was up there earlier. Washington right there. San Diego State at number 14. And then Miami back in the top 25. And Oregon at number 25. So they really fell off. And North Dakota State does not finish in the top 25. They started out that 8-0 and then lost to Utah, lost to Arizona, and then lost to Arizona again, and then to Iowa State. So sort of a disappointing with this way Oregon started. Now a look at the All-Americans. All-American quarterback ends up going to Brandon Wimbush. That's very surprising. I doubt we will see any South Dakota players on this list though. So we just go through and see who some of these players are. Joe Burrow ends up 2nd team. He led the country in passing, I believe. Xavier Thomas for Clemson. No real names sticking out here. Then freshman All-American, we played Sean Chambers. He's from Wyoming. And some of these other players here. So still no players from South Dakota. There's one, Winston Zenner. Let's see how many. He ended up with 86 tackles, that is, with 13 for loss. He's a freshman All-American for North Dakota State. And we can look at the All-Independents. There's only a number of teams here. Looks like a lot of North Dakota State and Notre Dame. See if we get any in this list. Probably our only real opportunity. No first team. See if there's any 2nd team South Dakota with a couple there, but a lot of Notre Dame and a lot of North Dakota State. So no all independent. Then turnover differential. This is a big factor in, obviously we don't have a ton of talent, so that goes into this. But a big reason why we struggled so much is we turned the ball over 22 times, which is way too many. And then the biggest problem in terms of our defense, honestly, I wasn't expecting us to stop many offenses, but something that could have really helped us would have been for us to force more turnovers, which we did not do. Last in the country, 3 less than anyone else. Interceptions, we had the fewest, and then the fewest fumble recoveries as well, tied with Central Michigan. The most important part of this team and the most important part of the series, especially early on, is going to be the recruiting. We have to find some gems. In our limited recruiting pool, I think there was only 21 players we could target, but I definitely like the guys that we were able to come away with. I've said it multiple times, we have 11 seniors graduating and we have 10 commits, so I think one of those seniors will maybe be redshirting, or we may have a spot for a transfer as well, left one spot open for that. But 11 seniors graduating, and now we'll see some of the players that we do have committed. Noah Johnston will be a junior. He's a junior college transfer from Iowa, and he is a good run blocker, not super athletic, but most likely will be a day one starter for us. Then DeMarco Anderson, 6'3", so good size. He's from South Dakota, and he is a free safety. I'm not sure where he fits best. He's definitely a guy who needs to develop, but he's a decent athlete compared to our roster currently. He can't cover though at all, so that's definitely got to improve a lot. But one real positive, he's pretty strong and can hit. Noah Butler may be a potential day one starter as a true freshman, 6'4", 295 out of Iowa, so he has good size. He's not a great athlete, not super strong, but it is a run blocking specialist. Eric Sikowski's a guy like he is a 2-star prospect, 6'2", 185, so adds some size to our secondary. He is from Nebraska. We'll see his stats here. He's not super fast. He can hit a little bit. I'm not sure if his future best spot will be at corner or safety. With the need coming up for cornerbacks, he may fit best there, but I would personally like to see him as a free safety, especially if those coverage ratings can improve. One of the best players we recruited is Jackson Harvey. No real contest for honestly any of these guys. They were all pretty much going away. But he's from Brookings, South Dakota, so we stole him from South Dakota State's backyard. And he's 6'3", 237. He really liked all the things that we offered. He was an early on commit. He's not a superb athlete, but he's really just a jack of all trades. He has some nice coverage ability, potentially nice pass rushing ability, along with the ability to stop the run. I wish he was a little bit better of an athlete, but he's a guy, any of these guys really who are in the 60 overall range, most likely have a good shot to be a day one starter, and I can't see any real way that he isn't a day one starter for us. LaDorian McCray, he's not the biggest guy, 6', 184 from North Dakota. Another guy who wasn't really highly targeted by anyone else, but he really liked what we had to offer. He's not a superb athlete, so he probably will be a box safety. One thing I thought about with him, he has some decent strength to him. He can hit and maybe potential in terms of block shedding. So I am wondering if he maybe has a future as a linebacker safety hybrid, sort of playing in the box close to the line of scrimmage where he can lay the wood. Good pursuit as well. Phoenix McDonald really brings one thing to the table. He's 5'10", 183 from South Dakota, and that one thing is downfield speed, something we do not have. He doesn't have great hands, not really great after the catch, but could provide us with some time to develop with a downfield threat. Rakeem Boyd, one of the 2 halfbacks that we have committed in this class. He's a 1-star prospect from Wyoming. Another guy where there was no real competition. He is a decent athlete compared to the guys that we currently have. Has some good elusiveness to him, but ball security may be a big issue for him, along with staying in the field with a low injury rating. Doesn't have superb hands out of the backfield, but just as another guy who will probably redshirt and develop and could be a nice impact player for us. Cooper Price is the 2nd highest overall commit that we got. He's from Wyoming, 6', 179, a 1-star prospect as we beat out Wyoming for him. He's got good speed, good hands, good route running, not going to make spectacular catches or really maybe a whole ton of catches in traffic, not going to do a whole lot after the catch either, but could provide us with a better downfield threat than really replace what Deontay Knox did this year. So Knox can maybe fit in a different role, but he will be a junior for us. Then from North Dakota, we beat out North Dakota. We put a ton of points into Cordell Hicks. He's undersized at 6'1", 230, but he is a great receiving tight end. He's a good athlete. He's honestly faster than some of the wide receivers we currently have. He has good hands, good route running, could potentially develop into a good blocker as well. And he's a guy who probably will be behind Tate Wagner in the depth chart, but he could split out wide for some time at receiver and twin tight end sets alongside of Tate Wagner, and I'm really glad we were able to get him. Then Dontavius Knight, he is from Vermilion, so he's a hometown kid. He's small at 5'8", 160, and he isn't super fast, super strong, but he's very agile. He has the ability to make you miss and make plays in the open field, and also has very solid hands out of the backfield. He may fit in that sort of hybrid role, doesn't really have a real position. He's not as fast as DeAnthony Thomas, or really as elusive, but that's sort of the role I envision for him, as a return man and a guy who can play a little receiver, play out of the backfield, and it's just very quick. He's one guy though, I'm not certain if he'll play in year one. That's something we'll have to evaluate, as we do have Jalen Page and Pierce Libby back next year, along with Trenton Klemper. I'm not sure how much better, if he will be any better than any of those guys. So it'll be something to definitely keep an eye on, but I'm definitely glad we got him. If he does redshirt, I think he has a very promising future for us though. Then the gem of this class, we beat out Iowa State and North Dakota State. It was a tough battle. He's from North Dakota, so he's from North Dakota State's backyard. He's a 2-star prospect, 6'8", 303, and he is incredibly talented. He was a massive gem prospect. He's strong. He can run block, impact block, pass block as well, so he's very balanced there. He's a good athlete, great acceleration on him, and he is the best prospect we got. He may end up being the best player on our team next year as a true freshman, but overall, I like the class we were able to put together. Currently, we have the class ranked 124th. We have 12 commits, 7 are a 1-star prospect, and then 5 2-stars, with our severe recruiting restrictions that I put in place to not allow us to get too good too quickly. Like I said, I think we only had like 21 prospects available to us, and the restrictions that I put in place. But the class that we put together, I'm very happy with. You can see 124th, so not a whole ton of seniors graduating, so there wasn't a ton of room to really see to add a whole ton of players. But looking at where these prospects are from, you can tell they're all local kids. A number of players from South Dakota, North Dakota, 1 from Nebraska, a few from Iowa, 1 from Minnesota, 2 from Montana, and 3 from Wyoming. So all very close to us. None of them super highly rated, but I like the guys we were able to get out of South Dakota: Dontavius Knight, Phoenix McDonald, Jackson Harvey, and DeMarco Anderson. We do have a few guys left on the board. You can see here Marcelo Jackson and Franklin Robinson are kickers. We don't really have room in the class for them. They're also not super talented. They have poor kick power on both of them. And then the other guys were just people who were included in that list, and I felt like the players that we got were all better than them. One guy is Jacob Boschek. He's 6'2" from South Dakota. Don't have room for him. Maybe he ends up at Arizona State. We may have to keep an eye on him moving forward, but would just have to have been a developmental prospect. But we have a ton of areas to improve in this team. It's going to be a long build, but I'm very excited for it, and to just build this team in a better program, to put them in a better position. And I hope you enjoyed. That's going to do it for this recap. Like I said, there's a ton of improvement to be made. The next thing in this series will be the off season. I am going to stream that. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing me stream that. But currently the plan is to stream it this coming Saturday, probably around 1 or 2 earlier on Saturday. I'll put up a little video notification type of thing, and it'll let you know when the stream will actually start. But I'm excited for that. We'll get to meet these recruits, see them in live action, see the improvements that this team will make. But I hope you did enjoy this recap. I hope you enjoyed Season 1. Like I've said multiple times, it was very fun to make. If you did enjoy Season 1, please leave a like on the video. Leave your comments on which players do you think could have an impact next year. Maybe whether it's some of those players who are lower on the depth chart, maybe some starters this year who just didn't perform very well, who you could see having a breakout season next year, or whether it's the recruits that we've seen. But I will see you next time for the off-season stream. I hope you have a great rest of your day.